Sponsored by Dashlane. Both Apple and Disney announced new streaming video services this year, and they couldn't have been more different. Apple promised a few old favorites like Peanuts and Oprah, but mostly all new originals with huge names like Jennifer Aniston and Jason Momoa attached, budgets that would take us into the future and, through alternate timelines, the moon again, and with some astronomical aspirations attached, because there was absolutely no catalog content to fall back on. Disney, on the other hand, was all about the franchises, including new Star Wars and Marvel shows, and returns to high school musicals, but also less expected originals like Imagineers and Jeff Goldblum, and with a back catalog that conservatively includes, when you add Disney proper, Pixar, Muppets, Fox, National Geographic, about 85% of all of our childhoods. Now, both of them have launched and are just finishing up the first 8-episode seasons of their first originals, and no spoilers, but it's enough to figure out where they are and where they're likely going next. I'm Rene Ritchie, and this is Apple TV Plus versus Disney Plus, one season later, on Vector. I was there, in person, when Apple announced TV Plus back in March of this rapidly depleting year. I know some people thought it looked hella goofy on stream, but being there in the Steve Jobs Theater, experiencing the lights going out, and seeing Spielberg, Aniston, Mamoa, Oprah, all appearing on stage, one after the other like a Wing Chun chain link punch in the celebrity star power gut, it was impressive. It came amidst the announcements for Apple Card, which hasn't grown beyond the US but keeps adding cashback partners and bonuses at a rate that makes it super interesting. News Plus, which suffers not only from the same lack of internationalization that plagued Apple News in general, but from an interface that makes it almost impossible to find articles you already know about and just want to read. And Apple Arcade, which has been legit terrific and rejuvenated the fortunes of indie games in a way and at a scale that I've just never seen before. There was some concern at first, especially around TV Plus being Apple, that Tim Cook and Eddie Q, and hell, Craig Federighi and Johnny Cerrugi would all be pushing down notes trying to oversell and overprotect Apple's image in all the wrong ways. That we'd end up with safe, sterile, frankly saccharine programming too lame for either children or adults to actually want to watch. Well, Jennifer Aniston blew the motherfucking lid off that roughly 5 minutes into the morning show's debut. And Jason Momoa literally cut the heads and arms and legs off any violence and gore fears almost as fast. Apple did face some expectational debt going in. They launched in over 100 countries, which is amazing, and something you can only do if you only have new originals and keep all the rights to them in all the regions. But the morning show, despite seeming very Sorkin-esque, just wasn't and isn't a Sorkin show. It doesn't have either that caliber or style of writing. And C, despite the violence and some kind of bizarre sex scenes and the incredible visuals, was just never going to be Game of Thrones, or rather any Game of Thrones season without an 8 in it. Apple also made the mistake of giving critics the first 3 episodes to review, and only the first 3 episodes, of shows that were really only starting to find their legs and climb their way out of their worst in those first 3 episodes. They were almost all up and down, to be sure, but the morning show finished the season with what seems to be widely acclaimed as a couple of the best hours in recent television history, and For All Mankind's finale isn't that far behind. Dickinson has also been a delight that I don't think many major streaming services would have gambled this big on. Even M. Night Shyamalan's The Servant, which started much later and hasn't wrapped its first season yet, vibes so creepy AF that it brings something totally different to the table. We're still waiting on other big shows like Spielberg's Amazing Stories reboot and Asimov's Foundation, but I think it's safe to say TV Plus has ended up being better than many people expected, surprisingly so, and a welcome new voice and palette in streaming. I watched the Disney Plus announcement from the comfort of my own home, and mostly with my jaw just dropped on the floor. Not only would we be getting Star Wars from Jon Favreau, but we'd be getting actual Marvel Cinematic Universe shows from Kevin Feige and team, and a ton of them. That was on top of all the other big franchises Disney was bringing back, in what can only be described as the real-world equivalent to every ship or every hero or every loved one who shows up at the end of a movie or TV series just to knock you utterly and completely on your fan ass. And they just kept coming. Never mind the catalog content, which included pretty much every Disney show and movie Gen X grew up with, from Escape from Witch Mountain to Darkwing Duck, almost every Star Wars movie and cartoon, the entire Thanos saga from Marvel, the Simpsons franchise, and basically everything you'd ever want to rewatch to relive your childhood or show your kids what would become part of theirs. But Disney faced some initial skepticism as well. It was only coming to a tiny number of countries this year, which didn't mean much to Americans who were of course getting it, but was super frustrating to the other 99% of the world. It was also, of course, Disney, which meant it was great for Star Wars and Marvel and Simpsons and Magic Kingdom lovers, but not so great for people who genuinely preferred Star Trek or DC or South Park or Looney Tunes. For all its scope and scale, it was limited to Disney's scope and scale, which means it just wouldn't take the same type of risks an upstart or broader content licensor would. They would only do Disney, and a lot of Disney. Also, the vast majority of shows that had been announced for Disney Plus wouldn't be coming until a much later date. So all that expectational debt for WandaVision and Hawkeye and Loki, added to by continued announcements for Obi-Wan and She-Hulk and Moon Knight and more, would all fall solidly on the shoulders of The Mandalorian at launch. And most people seem to have really all caps loved the Western gone, Eastern gone, spaghetti gone Star Wars that Favreau and company produced. Alongside HBO's Chernobyl and Watchmen, it's probably at the top of most nerds' show of the year lists. Granted, it was just one show, and as delightful as Imagineers and Goldblum are, and as shock and awe as that back catalog is, a lot of us are still waiting for more. And while The Mandalorian was also a little up and down, there's just no denying it's ending hard as well. Both TV Plus and Disney Plus look terrific. If you have a 4K HDR television or device, the bitrate alone makes for an experience no other streaming service has delivered before. It's so good, it actually makes older services look kind of bad by comparison. And they're gonna have to up their streaming games if they haven't already. The prices are also good. Apple has even mitigated my biggest concern, that no one would want to gamble on their nascent programming this early on, by giving away a year of free service with the purchase of any Mac or iOS device. That builds in a lot of runway and covers at least a little bit of catalog. Both services have been so good, in fact, I didn't even launch Netflix until The Witcher came out. Part of that was just Netflix's refusal to be included in the TV app, so their stuff just never got flagged for me the way TV Plus or Disney's did. But part of it was also my ongoing grumpiness over what feels like several successive price hikes. The Witcher was good, Hercules and Xena with production values, as others have said, but also dropped for binging the way most Netflix shows are. Apple did 3 episodes down, 5 weekly to follow for their shows, and Disney did all weekly for The Mandalorian. And I think The Morning Show and The Mandalorian especially benefited from that pace. It kept them in the social water cooler spotlight for much longer than a single drop in binge would have allowed. I'm still catching up on The Watchmen as well, and HBO remains a wild card in all of this with its Mac service, which for now just frustrates the hell out of me. That DC Universe will remain a separate service with DC-based shows split between them and CW, and that shows will still be auctioned off internationally rather than unified in any way like both TV Plus is and Disney Plus is working towards, just seems all shades of consumer hostile to me. Shame, Warner Brothers. Shame. Yes, I'm still all shades of angry that Titan Season 2 and Young Justice Season whatever haven't even shown up in Canada yet. It's the type of Lex Luthor corporate-driven anti-convenience I think people just aren't going to put up with anymore. Especially when they're getting used to incredibly convenient services like Dashlane, which can literally sync all your information between your devices, iPhone, iPad, Mac, PC, Android, and once it's synced, you can just autofill anything you want. Passwords, addresses, credit cards, passport numbers, frequent flyer numbers, TV streaming service logins, anything. So if you're logging in to watch that show or to buy tickets or to book travel, all the stuff you typically need to do when you're setting up and on the go, you can just do. There's even a built-in VPN for exactly this, so you can access the content you want to access when and where you want to access it. It's just the easiest, most convenient way to live your best digital life. Go to dashlane.com/vector to get a free 30-day trial of Dashlane Premium, where you can see these features in action and try out Dashlane for yourself. If you like it, just use coupon code VECTOR to save 10%. So, One season later, I think TV Plus and Disney Plus are both off to good starts. TV Plus is probably doing better than I thought it would, given its lack of catalog content, but it's offering up enough solid shows internationally, and especially a wide enough and diverse enough range of top talent shows that it's actually starting to distinguish itself. Disney Plus is probably a little bit behind what I hoped, just because the announcement of all the Marvel and Star Wars shows that nothing could have realistically lived up to the hype. They just gotta get into more countries faster. But legit, both are so different, and especially with the pricing and Apple's free year, I'm gonna be watching a ton of them going forward. Enough that Netflix and especially Warner Brothers might wanna reconsider some of their less consumer-friendly choices of late. And fast. At least that's what I think, but I'd love to hear your opinion. Hit like if you do, subscribe and share the channel. It really helps me out, and maybe you ought to reach that bell gizmo, because otherwise YouTube won't even bother to tell you when new videos come out. Then hit up the comments and, no spoilers, let me know, what do you think about Apple TV Plus and Disney Plus one season later? Thanks for watching, see you next video.